According to a study done by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Black Americans are more likely to experience a mental disorder than their white counterparts, but they are less likely to seek treatment. This reluctance to seek treatment can be attributed to a variety of factors, including misinformation, lack of trust in the system, and socioeconomic status. However, the most significantly barring factor is a stigma associated with mental illnesses within the community itself. I decided to interview a few of my peers to discover what they thought about this issue.
So I would say that there definitely is a stigma associated with mental illness. Um, I think like in the black community, there's an expectation that I guess especially in regards to like black males, there's an expectation of like being strong and not showing any like weakness, and I guess things are things like emotional vulnerability and like dealing with depression. Those are like perceived as weak in the community. So you're kind of like taught to like distance yourself from it or like suppress that kind of behavior.
I think the way like you see it on TV and in the media, I would think white people have way more mental illnesses because like whenever you see commercials for like being treated and stuff like that, like it's white people. And I don't personally know many. I think I knew one person with schizophrenia. Oh, and I knew someone who was bipolar. But like I don't really know anybody other than like, those two people for sure who have mental illnesses. So I definitely thought it was like probably a white people thing.
I have a feeling that the rates of mental illnesses among black people is probably higher than is perceived right now because I feel like due to the stigma associated with it, many black individuals wouldn't seek help or report having those mental illnesses, so they go largely unknown.
I think it's not as accepted. It's more like a stigma. Like for instance, I never suffered from mental illness, but when I was younger, I asked my mom for therapy, not even for any mental illness, just to talk things out and just clear your mind, a normal thing which would be accepted in a white community. But my mom, on the other hand, took it differently. She freaked out and thought that future jobs, my university, everyone would think I'm crazy. She even got the idea it would somehow appear on my medical records. I mean, not medical records, just my records in general. I wouldn't even get financial aid. She just had this complete idea that it would bring me down in future. And funny enough, I have a friend who literally was in the exact same situation, and her mom had the exact same idea. And we're from the same area, neighborhood. But I feel like the majority of black people probably first don't like identify it as a mental illness. Like they probably think like ADHD. I feel like it's a thing black people don't say their kids have. They're like, oh, he's just bad, or like he just overactive or something like that. So I think for the people who misdiagnose or like don't even believe in mental illness, they probably don't ever seek help because they don't think it's really a thing.
I think the likelihood of a black person to seek help from a medical professional would depend on their socioeconomic background. A man or woman from a more educated or wealthier background might be more trusting because they would have had more contact in the past and they would be able to afford the treatment as well. Whereas a person from a poorer or less educated background could only know the legacy of the Tuskegee trials and similar experiments, so they would be less trusting and they also wouldn't be able to afford the same health care.
I think that's super scary when your country like basically like poisons your people like that. Why would you want to go to the doctors? Every time you get a vaccination, you be thinking that like they're trying to inject you with syphilis or something like that. That's gross. Like, yeah, that scares people. That's really scary. I wouldn't want to go to the doctor either. For around middle school and the time where I haven't really been exposed to nothing else besides like a black and Spanish community, I probably would self medicate because I wouldn't want to accept the fact that I have a mental illness. Everyone would look down on me. However, I went to a white high school where I saw a tremendous amount of kids with Down syndrome and Asperger's and just completely other mental illnesses. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it to go seek actual medical help. So that's what I would do just to make myself feel better. I know my mom would look down upon it, but
I feel like part of like Black tradition has been the church. So like it'd be something that like my first thought would be like, I wouldn't think, oh, I have a mental illness. I'd be like, Mom, like maybe there's something, wrong with me that you could pray about, right? I would go to my mom and say that. I honestly would. And so maybe she would suggest going to the church, and like I might think that could work, and maybe it could work because I think sometimes like there is power in like a collective energy, right? I think there could be healing power in that. But like, I live in America, so if it was something that like I tested for, and they were like, you tested to have like bipolar disorder, and like they could show me like chemical percentages, then like I would want, like I would want to be medicated by the hospital. I think I don't know. Western medicine is scary, but
creating a pipeline between people of color and doctors of color. So maybe communication would be easier, or levels of comfort would be better than with white doctors.
I think it's definitely education. Like you have to go out into the Black communities, into their schools, and into the churches, and even into the local hospitals, right? And start putting up posters and flyers and having information sessions. Maybe make it a mandatory when they have health class in schools. Like make a week or a couple days where like you talk about mental illness, because once the conversation starts, I feel like that's really how everything starts. People have to start talking about it first. People have to know about it to talk about it. So educate.
Promote awareness that mental illness actually is an illness and not just like some kind of like perceived weakness, and just being aware and accepting that like that kind of like that vulnerability is okay in our community, and that there are ways to deal with it rather than just suppressing it.
From the responses that my peers gave, we can conclude that the stigma surrounding mental illness in the Black community is indeed prevalent. But all hope is not lost, because with the help of education, awareness, and acceptance, the stigma can be eliminated.